If you want to motivate yourself to achieve your goals, don't imagine your success. Imagine your failure.
Once I tended to go through one toxic cycle. Typically, I wrote my goals on the beautiful notebook, dreamed about my future, then I tried to do something related to what I wanted to achieve. Then, without impressive results and overwhelming work and lack of time, I felt bewildered and frustrated. I gave up everything, felt depressed, then again motivated, again wrote my new goals, and then,
Those stupid cycles just depleted my confidence. And just to be clear, right now I'm not talking about these lifelong goals, the most important plans. I'm talking about small but crucial skills and habits I wanted to develop for myself. Daily sport, deep learning, daily reading, learning a new language, developing a new hobby, taking a new course, finding a job, etc. Well, even having a knowledge about time management and having read thousands of self-help books, I couldn't become the organized and disciplined girl who can set particular goals and achieve them. Well, yeah, one goal is probably achieved. I've learned English, but I will talk about that later. Turns out that there are some mistakes that people usually do when they set their goals and after, so that they cannot achieve them. So after reading a lot of scientific literature, after watching a lot of scientific YouTube videos, after analyzing my own experience and asking my friends and parents regarding goal setting and goal achieving, I'm ready to share with you the most interesting and helpful information that will undoubtedly helpful for you to achieve your goals. I really advise you to watch this video up to the very end, because at the end of this video I'll discuss what I did actually in order to achieve one goal, what I did in order to learn English. So let's get into it. Let's talk about why people usually don't achieve their goals, and there are several reasons. The first one is that these goals are not realistic. There was a great study conducted in order to realize what level of goal increases the probability that human will actually achieve this goal, or at least do everything to achieve this goal. And turns out that goals set at levels that are moderately challenging but not impossible are the ones that inspire and that our bodies mobilize and gear up to take on. So instead of having the goal like I want to win an Oscar award, I'd better be down to earth and think of something like I want to achieve the City Filmmaking Award, which is far more easier and far more coherent for me right now. Because winning an Oscar award, this is an amazing goal, but it's 99.9% impossible for me right now. So instead of motivating me, this goal will actually frustrate me. And maybe I can have this goal in the future after I go through specific milestones in filmmaking career. But for now, I'd better be more down to earth and concentrate on something that I can achieve. The next reason is that we can be too overwhelmed with our daily tasks so that we physically and mentally are not able to work with our future goals. And I remember that pretty well when at the beginning of the previous year I set for myself like 5 or 10 goals, and on the next week my school classes officially started, so that I had a lack of time to sleep well, leaving alone my goals and other things I wanted to accomplish. So I could have physically done something for 1 or maximum 2 goals besides of school. But of course, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something for my 5 or 10 goals, and it was kind of impossible. I felt overwhelmed, then I had a burnout, and then the list of my goals from inspirational list turned to something that frustrated me a lot. Be realistic about your goals and realize whether you have a source, mental or physical source, in order to move towards your goals. So how to increase the likelihood of your goals achieving? Well, after you determine that you want to undoubtedly achieve particular goals, it's time to take an action. And the first thing that I recommend you, imagine your failure. The brain and body are much better moving away from the fearful thing than towards things we want. Don't get me wrong, you shouldn't be pessimistic, you should be optimistic, but while you're thinking about the scenario, when you fail at something, you activate your amygdala. This is the part of the brain that is responsible for goal setting and goals pursuing. And if you start to talk about the neurobiology behind goal setting and goal achieving, let's talk about that more detailed. I'm gonna describe just those functions that somehow related to goal setting and goals achieving, because remember that these parts of the brain are responsible for much more different things. So the first part we're gonna talk about is amygdala. Amygdala is responsible for emotional responses, including fear, anxiety, aggression, etc. So as I said it previously, while you're thinking of scenario, when you fail at something, you activate your amygdala.
The next part is striatum. It is responsible for motor action planning, reward perception, motivation, etc. So to sum more easier, it is responsible for the decision whether you should do something or don't do. The next part is lateral prefrontal cortex. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So basically this part is responsible for planning, working memory, imagination, perception of time. So thanks to this part of the brain, you are able to kind of think of your goal in future perspective. You can analyze what you're doing right now, what you can get in the future, and things like that. And the last part of the brain we're going to talk about is orbital frontal cortex. This part is responsible for emotionality of progress. So while you are doing something and you are achieving something, you understand that you are closer and closer to your goal. So this feeling of pleasure is generated thanks to orbital frontal cortex.
The next factor of goals achieving is that your goals should be concrete and have particular systems. So what I'm talking about, a couple of years ago, I set a goal for myself that I wanted to master coding. I wrote down that I want to master coding without describing what programs I wanted to use, without describing whether I wanted to go to specific courses or learn everything by myself using YouTube videos. I didn't describe days or time I'm ready to devote for developing those skills, and that's it. Once I had a free time that I could have possibly spent in order to master this skill, my brain started to think, okay, we can do that, but I don't have specific instructions, like what should I do right now in order to master this skill? So without those instructions, I felt bewildered, and my brain just said to me, okay, Tanya, we don't have specific instructions, so maybe we just can go to Netflix and check out new movie. And that's it. I had time in order to master this skill. I had this call, but without particular instructions, without understanding clearly what should I do, I cannot achieve anything, unfortunately. So right now, I highly recommend you to check out my next video when I talked about habits creation, because habits, this is the essential part of goals achieving. I highly recommend you to read the book Atomic Habits, because this is the book that literally changed my life, and after I read it, I started to perceive things like productivity, goals, motivation from completely another perspective. The next aspect of goal setting and goals achieving is the ability to concentrate on something and have a deep focus. Right now, I want to share with you one interesting activity that I heard in Hubermanlab podcast about goal setting and goals achieving, and this activity can help you to improve your focus while working or studying. Before you start to work on something, you should concentrate your gaze on particular subject in space and hold this gaze for 30 or 60 seconds. So for example, right now I'm in my room and I have a marker that I use for note taking. I can put it there, concentrate my gaze on it, and hold my gaze for 30 or 60 minutes. During that time, like, there is neurobiology behind this activity, and it's easy to explain why it improves our focus actually, but I don't want to explain all of those details. So if you want to check out this information, I really advise you to go to Hubermanlab podcast that I listened to, and it's indeed impressive. So I'll leave the link in the description. So basically, you need to hold your attention on a particular subject, and you need to, like, I personally use the 30 or 60 seconds in order to understand and imagine clearly what I'm about to do. So for example, after concentrating my gaze on that marker, I wanna start learning biology. And while I'm observing that object, I'm thinking that, okay, I will study biology right now. This is indeed an important subject for me. I want to prepare for the exams. I want to understand how my body works and how other systems in the nature work. I want to understand different diseases. So yeah, things like that. So I started to think of the reasons I do something. I started to think of the goals I want to achieve by doing these activities that I'm about to do. And of course I'm not talking about that physically, I'm just thinking about that. So I'm sitting like this. Yeah. You can do that activity before everything, like before I start learning a particular subject, or before I start painting, or before I start creating videos. So this activity helps you to increase your focus while performing specific activities. So I highly recommend you to try it out. Like for the first time, it felt so strange for me to do that. Like it was indeed hard for me to concentrate on something for that period of time. But in a couple of times, I realized that it is indeed helpful, and please check it out if you want. The next advice regarding your goals achieving. Don't evaluate your progress by external factors at the beginning. What I'm talking about. For example, half of the year ago, I started this English YouTube channel, and I had a goal that in 3 months I wanted to have a lot of subscribers. So this was my trigger of success. If I had this amount of subscribers, I would call myself successful. If not, that would mean a failure. It was a bad idea because my channel was new, it was small, it didn't have a lot of views, and I just couldn't reach out that amount of subscribers that I wanted to. So I felt like I failed at this activity. But after a while, I started to realize that it was a completely wrong approach. It's not that easy to develop the skill of speaking in a new language in front of the camera freely. Like, it takes a lot of time and efforts to develop this skill. Instead of trying to reach out a particular number of subscribers, I should have concentrated on the amount of videos I posted, on the quality of those videos, on the topics that I chose for my videos. So I should have concentrated on the things I could have improved by myself, right? So it's indeed an important idea. And again, I read a lot of scientific literature in regard to that idea that sometimes people evaluate their progress by external factors, by internal factors, and while you are starting something new, it's better to evaluate your progress by your internal factors, because sometimes even if you are performing indeed well, those external factors don't allow you to feel like you're successful, right? Try to concentrate on things you can change by yourself. And the last important idea about goals achieving. You need to make the mistakes in order to learn faster and improve your skills. And again, there was an interesting study conducted in order to realize how many mistakes you need to regularly make in order to not be overwhelmed with those mistakes and have effective learning or working practices. Turns out that while we have like 50% of mistakes during our performance, it's the most effective strategy for us to learn something new and develop our skills. So while we are performing well in 80-85% of cases, we feel motivated to continue, and while we are having 50% or 20% of mistakes that we need to deal with, we have an opportunity to learn something new from them so that improve particular skills. Okay, right now, as I promised, I'd like to discuss what I did in order to successfully achieve one of my goals, what I did in order to master my English skills. Basically, you'll be a little bit surprised, but I unconsciously went through all of the steps that I discussed with you today. I set a goal that wasn't too easy or too challenging for me. I understood that I can achieve this goal and everything depended on my own efforts. Next, I created the system for myself to learn this language. I created the plan for English learning, and of course it wasn't that easy, it wasn't that clear, and I changed this plan more than 10 times, but it doesn't matter. I tried to follow the plan that I created. I wrote down particular days for particular activities. I tend to do a lot of mistakes, and again, even then I realized that I need to do a lot of mistakes in order to improve my skills. So I did a lot of mistakes. I created some private videos on my phone when I recorded my speech, and then I listened to that and I was shocked by the amount of mistakes that I did, so that I tried to avoid these mistakes in the future. I didn't evaluate my progress by external factors at the beginning. I didn't ask my teachers about my English. I didn't ask anyone about my English. I didn't take some tests to check out whether I'm moving somewhere or not. Like, I fully concentrated on my systems. I did what I planned, and then after a year or even 2 years, after 2 years, I started to ask questions. I started to try to understand how other people recognize my speech and how others are thinking about my English skills. I started to take tests, for instance, doing English tests. I started to speak with other non-native speakers and ask what they're thinking about my English speaking skills. So yeah, I started to evaluate my progress by external factors only after 2 years of deep practice, of deep work on my English skills. I tried to imagine my success and failure, and this huge difference between these two imaginations just motivated me a lot. Okay, that was everything that I could remember about my English fluency journey, at least for now. And guys, that was everything for today. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope that information provided there will help you to achieve your goals and implement right approaches in order to do that. Write in the comments down below what do you think about goal setting and goals achieving. Do you have your particular advices that you can share with others? I would be grateful if you write your comment down below about it. So see you in the next video. Bye bye.